Hey man, when a woman leaves, she rarely shows the world her pain. She doesn't walk around looking broken, she doesn't broadcast her emptiness, and she doesn't admit to herself how much the silence from you stings. Instead, she puts on a show. She curates a version of herself that looks untouchable, posting smiles on social media, surrounding herself with friends, chasing new thrills, even convincing herself she's moved on. To the outside world, she's radiant, glowing, happier than ever, but that's the illusion. It's not happiness, it's performance. Because when someone has to convince everyone else and themselves that they're fine, it usually means they aren't. Women are masters of masking pain with appearances, and in those early days after she loses you, her biggest weapon is the illusion of joy. This mask of happiness is carefully constructed because she knows the world is watching. She doesn't want anyone to think she's made a mistake. She doesn't want you, especially, to feel like she regrets her decision. Pride demands that she paints her departure as freedom, not loss. So she plays the role, posting pictures that scream independence, going out more than she did when she was with you, exaggerating her laughter around new men who don't mean anything to her. It's not about them, it's about sending a message. And yet, deep down, she knows the show is fragile. Because happiness isn't loud, it's quiet. True peace doesn't need validation, but her performance is always public, always exaggerated, always louder than it needs to be. That alone reveals the truth. It isn't real happiness, it's a cover. But here's the thing, pretending takes energy, and energy runs out. At first, she can keep the mask on with ease. New attention fills her ego, the novelty of freedom feels intoxicating, and the idea of being independent gives her a high. But over time, the cracks begin to show, because the performance is unsustainable. The nights get longer, the silence grows louder, the men who once lined up for her attention start fading away, moving on to someone younger, someone newer, and suddenly, the mask that once made her feel powerful begins to feel heavy. Pretending drains her, and she can't outrun the truth forever. This is why so many women eventually collapse into regret, not because the illusion isn't convincing, but because the illusion isn't sustainable. The shift always comes at the quietest moments, not when she's out with her friends, not when she's laughing at a party, not when she's telling everyone how free she feels. No, it comes late at night, when the phone doesn't buzz, when she's scrolling through pictures and memories, when she's staring at the ceiling wondering why the freedom feels so empty. That's when the truth begins to break through the illusion. That's when the reality of losing you, of losing a man who gave her grounding, consistency, and stability, begins to sink in. And the more she tries to fight it, the heavier it becomes, because she can lie to others, but she can't lie to her own soul. And this is where it happens, the moment that shatters her illusion. It's not always dramatic. It doesn't require you to return, or for her to suddenly see you with someone else. Sometimes, it's something simple. She sees a man treating another woman the way you once treated her. She remembers a small detail about you that no one else ever noticed. Or she realizes the men she's with now don't measure up to the man she left. In that instant, her mask of happiness collapses, because it's no longer about performance, it's about comparison. And no matter how much she pretends, she knows the truth. She had something rare, and she lost it. That's when the pretending ends, not because she wants it to, but because reality won't let her keep up the act anymore. The irony is that the louder she tries to show she's moved on, the more it reveals how much she hasn't. Real happiness doesn't need an audience, but her new life is always on display. Staged smiles, exaggerated laughter, constant reminders to the world that she's better without you. What she doesn't realize is that this very performance exposes the truth. It's not growth, it's deflection. Every curated photo, every night out, every sudden declaration of independence is a shield against the emptiness she feels inside. She tells herself she's thriving, but thriving doesn't look desperate. Thriving doesn't need to be proven, and the more she tries to project her happiness outward, the clearer it becomes. She's running from the reality that losing you has left a void she can't fill. What makes the illusion fragile is how easily it unravels. One glimpse of you living your life without her, maybe a post of you focused on your growth, maybe a moment where she sees you laughing without her, can crack her entire performance. because her mask of happiness is built on the assumption that you're suffering without her. She wants to believe she was the center of your world, that her absence left you broken. But when reality shows her that you're calm, unbothered, and moving forward, the act begins to feel hollow. Suddenly, the new men she entertains don't feel exciting anymore. Suddenly, the nights out don't feel the emptiness, because nothing she does can erase the truth, staring her in the face. She left, and you didn't collapse. You grew. Another trigger for her regret comes when the attention she relies on begins to fade. In the early days, there's no shortage of men eager to fill your place. They'll compliment her, flatter her, and tell her everything she wants to hear. And for a while, it works. It numbs the sting of loss. But attention is fleeting. It's shallow. It doesn't carry the same weight as the genuine presence of a man who is steady, consistent, and grounded. When those men drift away, as they always do, she's left facing the emptiness again. And in that moment, she remembers the difference. The difference between validation and value. The difference between temporary thrills and lasting presence. That's when the mask slips, because she realizes she traded something rare for something disposable. The mask also cracks when she starts to see patterns repeat. At first, she tells herself her new relationships are different, that this time it's real, this time she's happier. But over time, she notices the same issues surfacing, the same shallow conversations, the same instability, the same lack of depth. And as she compares those moments to the peace she once had with you, the regret grows heavier. Because you didn't give her constant highs, but you gave her consistency. You didn't flood her with empty promises, but you gave her reality. And as her new experiences crumble one by one, the contrast becomes unbearable. That's when she begins to see through her own illusion, and it's no longer convincing, even to herself. And finally, the greatest shattering comes when she realizes that her pretending no longer fools anyone. Her friends may nod along to her stories of freedom and fun, but deep down, they see the cracks too. They notice the emptiness in her laughter, the way her energy shifts when your name comes up, the restless way she jumps from one distraction to another. Even strangers can sense it, that something about her happiness feels forced. And once she realizes that others see through the act, the weight becomes unbearable, because pretending works only as long as the audience believes it. But when the mask slips and the performance is exposed, she's left with the one thing she was running from all along, the truth that she lost something real, and now she has to live with the regret. The deeper truth about her illusion of happiness is that it isn't meant to last. At first, it gives her momentum, a kind of false high that convinces her she's untouchable, but the body always knows the truth before the mind admits it. Late at night, when there's no music, no friends, no camera ready to capture the highlight, she feels the hollowness. That's when regret slips in like a shadow. She replays old moments, the way your presence grounded her, the way you didn't bend under her tests, the way she felt safe even when she pretended she didn't need it. And in those quiet hours, she realizes the illusion doesn't fill her anymore. She pretends in the daylight, but in the silence of night, her soul exposes the truth. She misses what she lost. She may still carry herself like she's better off, but internally she knows that every new man she meets lacks something you had. It's not about money, looks, or words. It's about presence. Most men she encounters will bend to her validation-seeking games. They'll overpraise, overtext, overpursue, but she remembers that you didn't. You stood your ground. And as much as she tried to frame that as coldness, she now recognizes it as strength. That's why her happiness never feels secure, because while she's with men who collapse under her pressure, she remembers the one man who didn't. And no matter how she tries to ignore it, the comparison lingers. Every laugh with someone new feels emptier than the quiet peace she once had with you. Her mask will begin to betray her in subtle ways. She'll laugh a little too loudly at jokes that aren't funny. She'll flaunt relationships too quickly. She'll constantly remind the world that she's happy because she needs to. It's not that she wants to move on. It's that she needs others to believe she already has. But this constant need for validation only proves the opposite. Because women who are truly happy don't advertise it. They don't parade their relationships, they don't chase endless distractions, and they don't seek the spotlight. The more she tries to prove her happiness, the more hollow it looks. And the moment she realizes that others can see through it, the illusion collapses faster than she expected. The illusion also collapses when life forces her to face real challenges. When she was with you, she had stability, a man who didn't panic when things got difficult, who stayed calm when storms came, who reminded her of reality when her emotions spun out of control. Without that, every problem feels heavier. She has no anchor. And though she pretends her new life is glamorous, when the real difficulties hit, loneliness, betrayal, disappointment, she feels the absence of your grounding energy more than ever. That's when her smile feels weakest. Because the truth is, a woman can fake joy in good times, but she can't fake peace in chaos. And when chaos comes, the illusion is exposed. And this is the turning point she never saw coming. For a long time, she'll keep pretending, but the illusion only works if she believes she's winning. And once she realizes she isn't, once she sees you thriving without her, once she feels the emptiness of shallow attention, once life hands her the loneliness she can't outrun, the performance collapses. That's when she begins to regret, not just losing you, but losing the part of herself that only existed when you were around. Because with you, she felt safe to be vulnerable, grounded, steady. Without you, she becomes restless, unstable, constantly performing for an audience that doesn't care. And the more she realizes this, the heavier the regret grows. That's why she'll never truly forgive herself, because the act of pretending isn't sustainable, and once it ends, all she's left with is the truth she's been running from. The haunting begins quietly. At first, it's just a passing thought, a memory of your calmness, a reminder of how things felt when she was with you. But over time, those thoughts multiply. Every new man she meets, every fleeting thrill she chases, every lonely night magnifies the contrast. She tells herself she's happy, but her subconscious keeps reminding her of the difference. That's when regret stops being occasional and starts becoming constant. It's like a whisper that won't leave her alone. You had something real and you let it go. And once that whisper begins, no amount of distraction can drown it out. Because deep down, she knows the illusion is slipping and the truth is demanding to be faced. What makes this regret unbearable is the way it attaches itself to her self-image. She doesn't just regret losing you. She regrets what losing you says about her. It shows her that she didn't recognize value when it was right in front of her. It proves that she chose chaos over peace, excitement over stability, fantasy over reality. And every time she reflects on that, it hurts not just because of you, but because of what it reveals about her own weakness. This is why she can never truly forgive herself, because to forgive herself would require admitting that she failed, that she sabotaged her own happiness. And instead of facing that, she'll keep pretending. But the longer she pretends, the heavier the truth becomes. The cracks in her mask also appear when she compares her life to others. Maybe she sees a friend with a man who is steady and loyal. Maybe she scrolls past the picture of a couple who radiates peace and stability. And in that moment, the smile she shows to the world fades, because she realizes that could have been her life if only she'd chosen differently. Comparison is one of the sharpest forms of regret, because it doesn't just remind her of you, it reminds her of what she gave up. And every comparison makes her own happiness feel faker, more forced, more fragile. She'll act like she's happy for others, but inside the bitterness grows. Not because she hates them, but because their lives remind her of what she lost. The illusion completely unravels when she sees you thriving. She may have thought she was free, that she could move on and leave you behind. But when she sees you standing taller than ever, not chasing her, not begging, not crumbling in her absence, but building, growing, and living fully, her performance collapses, because she realizes that her entire illusion of happiness depended on the belief that you were suffering without her. That belief gave her power, gave her pride, gave her justification. But when she sees that you've built peace without her, the truth cuts deep. She lost a man who didn't need her to be complete. And that's when regret becomes permanent. Because she can lie to the world, but she can't lie to herself when the evidence of your growth is staring her in the face. This is why her act of pretending can never last. Because pretending is fragile, it requires constant energy, constant validation, constant distractions. But reality requires none of that. Reality simply is. And when her illusion collides with your reality, she loses every time. That's the moment she stops being able to convince herself. The laughs don't feel as real. The distractions don't feel as fulfilling. The new men don't feel as strong. And every time she tries to deny it, the truth creeps back in louder than before. You lost something real, and you'll never get it back. That's the moment her smile fades, her mask slips, and her happiness crumbles. And that's the moment she knows, no matter how hard she tries to pretend, she'll never forgive herself for letting you go. When she first leaves, she tells herself a story, that the grass will be greener, that new excitement will fill the void, that freedom will somehow make her feel alive again. But the longer time stretches, the more she realizes that freedom is often just loneliness wearing a seductive mask. She fills her calendar with new faces, parties, and endless distractions, but none of them carry the depth that you once provided. You see, men don't always understand this truth. Women feel emptiness more profoundly when they've walked away from stability. Because for a woman, emotions are oxygen. They need them to survive, to breathe, to validate their existence. And when the high of novelty fades, and her emotions don't get the oxygen they once received from your presence, she's left gasping in silence. She'll pretend like she's fine, like she's never been happier, but that silence eats her alive. She might even tell herself she doesn't miss you, but missing you isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet ache, one that shows up at night when no one is watching. That ache becomes the shadow she can't outrun. The part that destroys her the most is not losing you directly, but losing the version of herself that only existed when she was with you. Women rarely realize this until it's too late. When they're with a strong, centered, grounded man, they rise into a higher version of themselves. They become calmer, more feminine, more at peace, because your stability sets the frame for her chaos. Without you, she might think she's found freedom, but what she really finds is the return of her own insecurities, her own restless spirit, her own constant need for validation. Suddenly, she's more anxious, more reactive, more dependent on attention from others just to keep her self-esteem afloat. She can laugh all she wants, she can post pictures to prove her happiness, but what she's really doing is trying to convince herself that she's not spiraling back into the weaker version of herself that existed before you. And this is why she will always feel that quiet pull towards you. Not necessarily because of who you are, but because of who she became in your presence. That version of her haunts her, and she knows she can't recreate it with someone else. Regret has a cruel way of disguising itself as pride. She'll act defiant when people ask about you. She'll shrug and pretend like leaving was the best decision she ever made. But inside, pride is her only shield against the pain of facing the truth. Women know when they've lost something rare, but their pride won't let them admit it, at least not openly. And this is why she'll play the role of the strong, independent woman after you're gone. But the irony is this: true strength doesn't require performance. The fact that she feels the need to prove herself through exaggerated smiles, staged photos, and loud declarations of independence only reveals her inner fragility. And the longer she plays this role, the more exhausting it becomes. Pretending to be unaffected takes energy, and eventually, that energy runs out. When it does, she's left staring at herself in the mirror, asking questions she can't silence. Why did I leave? Why wasn't it enough? Why did I think I could do better? That's the breaking point where pride collapses under the weight of reality. Another reason she'll never forgive herself is because time has a way of making wounds sharper, not softer, when it comes to regret. At first, she might believe that time will heal everything, that the pain of losing you will fade as the months pass. But here's the truth: most people don't want to face time doesn't heal regret, time deepens it. Every year that passes, every milestone she faces without you, whether it's holidays, birthdays, or quiet nights of reflection, will remind her of what she lost. And the worst part, regret doesn't just remind her of the past, it poisons her future. Because once she knows she had something real and let it slip away, it changes how she views every relationship moving forward. She becomes more guarded, more bitter, more restless. And deep down, she knows she won't find another man who gave her that same combination of strength and stability. This is why you don't need to do anything for her to feel your absence. Time itself does the work for you. The longer she pretends, the heavier the illusion becomes until it finally suffocates her. But perhaps the most devastating part for her is when life itself forces her to confront reality. It might happen when she faces failure, losing a job, struggling with finances, or feeling the sting of betrayal from someone she thought was better than you. In those moments, she doesn't just think about her current pain, she thinks about how life was when she was with you. She remembers how you handled storms with calmness, how your presence anchored her even when things went wrong, and suddenly her illusion of happiness collapses entirely because she realizes the truth. She traded a man who gave her peace for a world that gave her chaos. That's the day the pretending stops. That's the day the mask falls. She might not admit it out loud, but inside, she knows the brutal truth. You were the best thing she ever had, and she'll spend the rest of her life carrying the weight of losing you. And that realization doesn't just hurt, it haunts. Because once she knows it, there's no going back. She can never unsee what she lost, and she can never forgive herself for letting it slip through her hands. What she will never admit, not to her friends, not even to herself, is how much your presence shaped her experience of love itself. When a woman experiences a man who is truly grounded, who doesn't flinch when tested, who doesn't collapse under emotional storms, it leaves an imprint on her nervous system that no one else can replicate. She may date other men, even men with money, looks, or charm, but every time they stumble, every time they act needy, every time they fail to lead with strength, her mind will involuntarily compare them to you. That comparison isn't conscious at first. It shows up in her disappointment, in her sudden irritability, in the way she criticizes them for things she used to silently appreciate about you. This is why her new relationships feel incomplete, because deep down, she knows she already tasted something better. She'll smile for the camera, she'll post pictures of her new chapter, but at night, when those men don't hold their frame, when they reveal insecurity, when they lack depth, she feels the ghost of you, and it unsettles her more than she'll ever admit. And this is where the real punishment begins. Not from you, not from any action you take, but from her own choices. See, when she walked away, she thought she was moving towards something brighter, but the truth of life is this: you cannot outrun reality. Reality is that very few men operate with masculine stillness, calm confidence, and that rare strength that doesn't need to prove itself. So every man she meets after you feels like a downgrade. They might have flashy appeal, but they lack your essence. They may give her excitement in the short term, but they cannot sustain it. And so she begins to recycle the same relationship patterns, falling quickly, losing interest even faster, blaming the man for not measuring up. But in the back of her mind, she knows it isn't the men, it's her. She knows she had the real thing once, and she let it slip away. And that knowledge poisons her ability to ever feel fully satisfied again. This is why you don't need to punish her. Life itself becomes her punishment. Every new connection she tries to build collapses under the weight of what she already lost. What makes her spiral deeper is not just that she misses you, but that she misses the version of herself she became around you. Men don't always realize this. Women feel at their most feminine when they are with a man who is truly masculine. Your calm energy gave her permission to relax. Your self-control made her feel safe. Your silence carried more weight than another man's endless validation. Without you, she reverts to survival mode. She becomes more controlling, more masculine, more restless. She might even convince herself this is empowerment, but in reality, it's just a defense mechanism. Because what she really craves, though she'll never admit it, is the feeling of surrender she had when she trusted your leadership. And once she's had that taste, she can't forget it. No matter how hard she tries to drown it in distractions or deny it with pride, she knows that you brought out the side of her that she secretly loved the most. And now that it's gone, she realizes she'll never fully meet that version of herself again. That truth gnaws at her silently until it becomes unbearable. Here's the part most men never understand until much later. Women will often pretend to be happy, not for themselves, but for the audience watching them. When she posts those smiling photos, when she flaunts her new lifestyle, it isn't to prove to herself that she's happy, it's to prove it to you. It's her silent message. Look, I'm fine without you. But here's the paradox. The very need to prove it means she isn't fine at all. Real happiness doesn't need validation. It doesn't need performance. It doesn't need an audience. The act of showcasing her joy reveals its fragility. And the more she performs, the more she secretly hopes you're watching, that you're still paying attention, that you're comparing her glow to what she lost with you. And yet, the irony is brutal. By the time she finally accepts that you're not watching, not chasing, not clinging, that's when the act shatters. she realizes she's been dancing for an audience that left the theater long ago, and in that moment, the weight of her pretense comes crashing down. And when it crashes, it doesn't come quietly. It comes with sleepless nights, with random memories that sting, with sudden emotions that erupt at the smallest triggers. She might see something that reminds her of you, a song, a smell, a place, and suddenly all her pretending collapses. That's when she realizes the truth. The one man she thought she could replace was the only man she can't erase. And that realization isn't just painful, it's permanent. It rewrites how she views men, how she views herself, how she views love. She'll never admit this publicly, because pride won't allow it. But deep down, she knows. And knowing eats at her, slowly, relentlessly, day after day. You don't need to remind her, you don't need to say a word, because life, time, and her own heart will remind her for you. And that is the hidden cost of losing a man who never needed her in the first place. The knowledge that she'll carry the weight of that loss forever. At some point, her mask doesn't just crack, it breaks completely. And this happens in silence, when no one else is around to watch. During the day, she might still wear the smile, still post the stories, still entertain the illusion that she's fine. But at night, when the world goes quiet, her thoughts turn into a battlefield. She replays the way you used to speak, the way you carried yourself, the way your calm energy silenced her storms, and she compares it to the noise in her life now. The shallow conversations, the men who try too hard, the emptiness she feels when she realizes that everything she chased after left her feeling more hollow than before. That's when her strength collapses. That's when the tears come. She may not cry for hours, but those brief moments of emotional breakdown are her soul screaming the truth. Her pride refuses to say she misses you more than she can admit. The cruel part of all this is that she knows the world won't give her the chance to go back. By the time a woman realizes what she lost, it's almost always too late, because the man she lost has already grown stronger without her. He has already detached, already built himself up, already learned to live in silence without craving her validation. And she knows this. Even if she doesn't say it, she can sense it. A woman's intuition is sharp. She can feel when a man no longer needs her, and that truth is devastating because it robs her of the very power she once had. The ability to pull you back, to control you with emotions, to reel you in whenever she felt like it, gone. And when she realizes she no longer has that power, her strength disappears, and what's left is vulnerability. Vulnerability mixed with regret is the deadliest combination a woman can carry, because it means she's haunted by the weight of her own choices, with no way to undo them. Her biggest torment is not that she lost you, but that you didn't lose yourself over her. This is something women rarely confess out loud. They expect a man to crumble when they leave. They expect him to beg, to chase, to drown himself in regret, and try endlessly to prove his worth. That gives her validation. It reassures her that she was valuable, that she was unforgettable. But when you don't break, when you go silent, when you disappear, and continue building yourself without even glancing her way, that's what cuts deepest, because it flips the script entirely. Instead of you being the one who loses, she becomes the one who has to face the reality of losing someone who never needed her in the first place. And once a woman sees this, once she realizes her absence didn't destroy you, it destroys her, because now she knows that everything she thought made her powerful was just an illusion. It's at this stage that women often start reaching out in small, subtle ways, maybe a random like on social media, maybe a text disguised as innocent, maybe a mutual friend dropping hints that she was talking about you. These are not coincidences, they are signals that she's beginning to cave under the pressure of her own silence. She's trying to test the waters to see if you'll respond, to see if she still has a thread of control over your emotions. But here's the paradox. The more she tries to reinsert herself into your world, the more desperate she reveals herself to be. Because the truth is, women don't reach back unless they feel a void. And if she's reaching, it's because the mask of happiness has already collapsed. She may act like it's casual, like she doesn't care, but in reality, she's searching for a lifeline. And deep down, she knows you're the only one who can give her what she lost: stability, calm, strength. But by then, she also knows she no longer deserves it. And this is why she'll never forgive herself. Not because she lost you. People lose relationships all the time. Not because she misses you. People miss things that no longer exist. She'll never forgive herself because she destroyed her own sense of security. She had a man who stood tall, who didn't bend to every whim, who was rare in a world full of weak imitations. She had a man who could have been her anchor through life's storms, and she let him go because she confused stability for boredom, strength for indifference, calmness for lack of passion. She didn't realize until it was too late that what she thought she wanted was never what she truly needed. And now, even if she finds another man, even if she tries to build something new, she'll always carry the scar of knowing that the best she ever had is gone forever. That scar is invisible to everyone else, but she feels it every single day. And no matter how much she pretends, no matter how much she smiles, she will always feel the weight of that truth pressing against her heart. When the silence stretches long enough, something begins to happen inside her that she cannot stop. At first, she tells herself you'll eventually come back, that maybe you're just taking time, that the connection you shared was too strong to vanish completely. But then days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and instead of hearing from you, she sees you thriving, calmer, stronger, sharper, focused on your goals without her. And that's when panic sets in, because women know instinctively when a man has detached. They can sense when their words no longer reach him, when their beauty no longer controls him, when their presence no longer shakes him. And in that moment, her mask of happiness becomes impossible to hold, because every time she smiles for the outside world, deep inside she knows you've moved on without looking back, and she has no way of pulling you back into her orbit. Her next move, often hidden beneath layers of pride, is to rewrite the narrative. She'll tell her friends she's fine, that she left because you weren't enough, that she has better options now. She'll dress it up in excuses, half-truths and exaggerations. But here's the cruel irony. The more she tries to convince others, the more she reveals she's trying to convince herself. Because the reality gnawing at her is this: she didn't leave you because you were weak. She lost you because you were strong. She didn't walk away from a man who lacked value. She pushed away a man who refused to be controlled. And that's the kind of loss that doesn't fade. You don't forget a man who didn't break when you left. You don't forget a man who didn't crumble when you withdrew your love. That memory lingers like a shadow, reminding her that her decision wasn't liberation, it was self-sabotage. The spiral becomes more obvious when the new men in her life fail to measure up. At first, she might find excitement in their attention, but eventually she begins comparing. Every laugh feels forced, every date feels shallow, every compliment feels empty, and in the quietest moments, she realizes she's measuring everyone against you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real, you were solid, you were steady when her emotions weren't. And now, surrounded by men who either try too hard to please her or fold under the weight of her moods, she starts to see the truth. She traded away substance for surface, and though she'll never admit it out loud, her heart knows it. This is why she scrolls through your old messages at night. This is why she stalks your social media without liking a single post. This is why she replays old memories when no one else is around. It's not nostalgia, it's regret disguised as longing. By now, she's stuck in a psychological trap of her own making. She wants to come back, but her pride won't let her. She wants to admit she was wrong, but the image she has built for herself won't allow it. So she sits in silence, watching your life unfold without her, and the silence becomes unbearable. Because women live off attention, it fuels them, it validates them, it reassures them that they are still desirable. And when you deny her that attention, not out of anger, but out of indifference, it leaves her with nothing to hold on to. That emptiness doesn't just sting, it corrodes. It eats away at her self-image, her confidence, and her perception of control. And in that state, she realizes a truth she never wanted to face. It wasn't you who needed her validation to feel whole, it was her who needed yours. And when she can no longer reach it, the void inside her begins to swallow everything. This is the moment when her mask fully collapses, when she can no longer play the role of the happy, unbothered woman. She may still post photos, still laugh in public, still show off a lifestyle that looks perfect on the outside, but inside she's broken. She knows she's lost something irreplaceable, and worse than that, she knows it's her own fault. Not because you were flawless, but because you were the one who didn't fold, the one who didn't chase, the one who didn't let her control the frame. And now, Every attempt to distract herself, every effort to fill the void, every man she entertains only reminds her more of the man she can't replace. That's the pain she'll carry silently, the punishment she'll endure for the choices she made. And no matter how much she tries to pretend otherwise, the truth will always whisper in the back of her mind. She let go of the man who never needed her, and that loss will follow her for the rest of her life. As time stretches further, she no longer even needs to pretend to others. She's become a prisoner to her own facade. At first, pretending she was happy was a performance for friends, family, and social media. But now, it's become her reality. She wakes up wearing the mask, goes through her day wearing the mask, and only takes it off when she's alone at night staring at the ceiling. And the scariest part, the mask no longer protects her. It only reminds her of the emptiness beneath it, because no matter how convincing she seems to others, she can't escape the truth inside herself. Every smile feels fake, every laugh feels forced, and every moment of fun feels hollow. The illusion has collapsed, but she's too deep into the act to stop. And the more she pretends, the more she loses touch with who she actually is. It's in those quiet nights, when the laughter fades and the distractions wear off, that she realizes just how badly she miscalculated. She thought she had time. She thought you would wait. She thought you would still be there in the background, orbiting her world like a satellite, ready to return the moment she snapped her fingers. But now, she looks, and you're not there. The phone stays silent. The messages never come. And worse than silence, she sees you living, building, thriving, and rising higher without her. That's the dagger to her pride, because for the first time, she realizes she was never the center of your universe, and knowing that destroys the story she told herself about who she was in your life. This realization forces her into comparisons she can't escape. She sees the new women who might enter your life, and suddenly every insecurity she buried comes clawing back to the surface. She wonders if they're younger, more beautiful, more feminine, more supportive. She obsesses over whether they get to see the side of you she once had, the calm presence, the quiet strength, the man who doesn't fold. And even if she tries to brush it off, the thought lingers someone else is benefiting from the stability she threw away. That thought alone can drive her insane, because women more than anything hate being replaced, especially by someone who makes them realize just how badly they messed up. And yet, despite the torment, she'll rarely admit the truth out loud. She'll cling to pride like it's the last shield she has left. She'll keep telling herself you weren't as great as she remembers, that you had flaws, that maybe she made the right choice, but deep down she knows she's lying to herself. The memory of you doesn't fade, it sharpens with time, because absence has a way of magnifying truth. And every time she tries to convince herself you weren't worth it, another memory surfaces, a moment where your calm silenced her storm, where your indifference held more power than her tantrums, where your presence grounded her in ways she didn't appreciate. And the harder she fights those memories, the stronger they become. This is when she begins to reach breaking point, not in the dramatic way you might expect, not through sobbing confessions or desperate apologies, but in subtle cracks that show up in her behavior. She grows bitter toward men. She becomes restless in relationships. She sabotages connections without knowing why, and it all traces back to you. Because whether she wants to admit it or not, the standard you set, the man you were, the strength you showed, has permanently rewired her. She can no longer tolerate weakness in men, but she also can't handle the strength of a man like you. She's caught in a cycle, searching for what she lost, but unable to handle it if she ever finds it again. That's the curse of letting go of a man who is truly grounded in reality. Her mind begins to play cruel games with her. She replays old arguments, but this time she sees them differently. The moments where she accused you of being distant, she now realizes were just you being stable. The times she said you didn't care, she now sees as you refusing to be manipulated. The fight she started to test your patience, she now recognizes as moments where you showed restraint instead of weakness. Every memory that once justified her walking away now becomes evidence of her mistake, and it eats at her, because now she can't escape the truth. She didn't walk away from a man who lacked value. She walked away from the very man she needed most. At this stage, regret doesn't come in waves, it becomes permanent. It's not just that she misses you, it's that she realizes she'll never find another version of you. And that truth lingers like a shadow over every relationship she tries to build. Even if she smiles, even if she laughs, even if she posts photos with someone new, there's always a part of her that compares. Always a part of her that knows deep down, he's not him. And no matter how hard she tries to bury it, that whisper never goes away. It follows her, year after year, reminding her of the man she lost and the life she could have had. That's the kind of regret that turns into a lifelong burden. She'll try to numb it with distractions, work, travel, parties, attention, even new relationships, but none of it fills the void. Because the void wasn't created by losing a man. The void was created by losing the man. The one who didn't chase, the one who didn't beg, the one who didn't fold under pressure. And when a woman loses that kind of man, she loses more than just love. She loses respect, security, and the rare stability her soul craves, but her pride rejected. And once that realization sinks in, it shapes the rest of her life. She may smile, but it will never be the same smile. She may laugh, but it will never be the same laugh. Because deep inside, she knows she threw away something priceless for something temporary. The tragedy of it all is that by the time she's ready to admit the truth, the door is already closed. You've moved on, you've built yourself up, you've grown stronger without her. And now, even if she comes back, you won't look at her the same. The respect is gone, the innocence of believing in her words is gone, and most importantly, the need for her is gone. And nothing devastates a woman more than realizing she no longer has a hold on the man she once thought she could control. That's when her regret solidifies into pain, not just the pain of losing you, but the pain of realizing she can never get you back. And so her punishment isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's not the tears she sheds or the sleepless nights she hides. It's the lifelong shadow of regret that follows her everywhere she goes. She'll keep pretending to the world that she's fine, that she's happy, that she's moved on. But deep inside, she'll always know the truth. She had a man who was rare, steady, and unshakable. And she lost him not because he was weak, but because he was too strong for her illusions. And that truth will haunt her long after the pretending stops. Because while you found peace, she's left with an endless war inside her own heart. A war she started, but can never win.